Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Hilton on City Avenue in Philadelphia. We're very honored here, Bob Long, Eric Nash, for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame dinner. We're here at the meet and greet, and we'll have a lot of great guests on our program here this evening. Eric, there's some wonderful Philadelphia sports icons being introduced and being inducted tonight. Some of them are going to sit in this very seat and speak with us tonight. We're very excited about it.
Oh, yeah, it's great. This is our second year doing this, and I'm so honored to be here. I want to thank all the powers that be that bring us here. Our friend Ruth and Chuck always help us out here. There's going to be a lot of famous Philadelphians, and to be very honest with you, there's going to be some Philadelphians here that you may not know quite as well, but are famous in their own right for sports that may, for instance, a rower, for example. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not real up on rowers from the 30s and 40s.
That's a great thing about this event, Eric. You're absolutely right, is that they're going to bring people from all the different sports. It's a very well-rounded event. Sure, you're going to have Ron Jaworski, right? You're going to have Tim Kerr of Flyers lore, but you're also going to have some folks that unfortunately are here posthumously and are no longer with us, but are still having the honor, and their families having the honor of having them inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. Like I said, and like you said, there's a great team on hand here of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame that made this possible for us. Now it's our turn to just do our job, Eric. Deliver a great product, deliver some insight and some interviews, and promote the great brand that is the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction night. So now we'll send you to our first interview and our first esteemed guest here on the program.
What does your character look like? Does it bounce back after each setback? Does it stand out by standing up? Does it make good on good intentions? Character is invisible until it's not. Only through action will the world know what it's made of, what you're made of. Find out how you can strengthen the character of your community alongside empowered veterans and families of the fallen at travismanion.org.
Now we have Steve Chalout, a representative of West Point, Army West Point, and tonight is a special enshrinement of the Army-Navy game, just hundreds upon hundreds of years of history. And Steve represented Army from 1988 through 1991 in terms of playing football. He graduated in 1992, and he joins us now. Steve, this is a great evening for everybody involved, and of course for Philadelphia being a host for so many years of the Army-Navy game. What does it mean to be here tonight and be here on behalf of the Army-Navy game and all its history?
Well, thank you for having me here, and it's a tremendous honor. Army-Navy has a special place in my heart and my teammates' hearts, and I think it's a brotherhood that goes across both academies. None of us are really anticipating ever playing pro football or doing those type of things, so we're out there for the pure love of the game, and Philadelphia is a tremendous host for that type of game. So it's pure, it's great football, and it's just a lot of fun, and years later we still get together and revel in the memories of those games.
One of the most poignant moments of each of those games is after the game when both teams go and face their fellow members in those respective institutions. And when you're standing on the field and you're hearing that song and you're looking up and seeing all your comrades up there, what is that moment like for those of us that can never hope to experience something like that?
Well, there are a number of different emotions you can go through, whether it be hopefully you're singing second, that means you won the game.
That's right.
And then there's the emotion of when I was a first year, my senior year, singing that alma mater for the last time out front of my classmates and peers, knowing that the next helmet I strapped on was going to be Kevlar and was to lead young men and women into battle. So it has a tremendous amount of pride and a tremendous amount of emotion that's tied to it, knowing that hundreds of years of tradition is all culminating at one point.
And we appreciate your service and all that you've done at Army West Point, and then, of course, after that. If you could describe for us what happened for you after college, where were you deployed, and what was your experience like serving the military in that way?
Well, when people come to me and say thank you for my service, is actually all my pleasure. The experience, the ability to go to a top-notch school, the ability to serve with the finest young men and women in all of the services. It was my pleasure. So thank you all for that opportunity. But from graduating West Point, I stuck around and was a graduate assistant coach for the prep school, and then after that I went to flight school and ended up flying spy planes for the Army, and I was immediately sent over to South Korea, and then from there I went to Fort Hood, and the world when I was in the Army was pre 9/11, so it was a much different mission. It was a much different situation than it is today, but we were ready to fight, and we did some great stuff.
Unbelievable stories. And whenever you have the opportunity to speak to a military veteran, we speak to one right now. Steve Chalout, great to have you on the show. And what was your favorite moment from one of the games that you played? Either if even it wasn't the game here in Philadelphia, I understand one of the games of the 4 you played was up in the Meadowlands, but what was your favorite moment of any of those Army-Navy games that you had the pleasure of being a part of?
Well, there were a lot of really great memories. One that sticks out was in the 1990 game. We were driving up and down the field, and we ended up winning that ball game. But there was a goal line play where Mike Mayweather, who was a running back for Army, was a phenomenal athlete. But they ran a counter play up the middle. It was right behind where I was, and we got the hole open. He scored, and I kind of gave a touchdown sign through the pile of carnage of people, and that ended up on the Philadelphia Inquirer front page the next day. And to see my ugly mug on that page, as you know, I looked like I was in more pain than I was in happiness. But it was to see that and be able to have that picture, in my office is a pretty cool thing.
I mean, with the Army-Navy games, being as big as, I mean, you have your own weekend. Still, to this day with college football, I don't think another game is played. Maybe lower division games, but, basically that's Army-Navy weekend, and everyone knows that. Now, how do you feel with the changing of the the cities, the sites where the games are played? Do you like it better when there's, like, for instance, Philadelphia, and when every game was in Philadelphia, as opposed to the off and on thing? I mean, how do you feel as the players? Because it seemed to me there was a certain camaraderie and feeling of doing it in Philadelphia, the history of the city and whatnot, and I think that may be a little bit lost now moving forward.
So, what I'll start off by saying, it's a great question. I'll start off by saying that I am not on the committee that chooses the bowl sites for Army West Point. So what I say is purely my opinion, because I will get in trouble. I don't want to get anybody in trouble here.
The opinions of Steve Chalout of that are that of
they're mine and mine only, and I don't want them to lose any negotiating power in the future. There's no other place that the Army Navy needs to be than Philadelphia. I mean, in my opinion, and I was down in Baltimore, and I'll definitely be at the Meadowlands, but when it comes down to it, Philadelphia is synonymous with Army Navy and vice versa, and it's where it needs to be. I'm glad that the next 4 out of 5 years it's here. We're excited about that, but driving over the Walt Whitman Bridge with 100 of your brothers, seeing the vet at that time in the off in the distance, and still gives me chills. Every day I drive over the Walt Whitman Bridge today, I can still kind of see the backdrop of the vet being there and knowing that I'm going to go into battle, and that's the way it should be. And Philadelphia is the city that needs to have it, and I love it here, and I'm totally honored to be able to represent both academies today in accepting this award for that.
I was talking with Steve Chalout here, a representative of Army West Point, a special enshrinement of the Army-Navy game tonight here at the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner. Steve, you mentioned Veterans Stadium, and unfortunately there's an increasingly large group of grade schoolers and junior high folks that really don't remember the vet, and that's a little scary. But for those that maybe didn't have the opportunity, or those that just want to reminisce, what were some of the maybe not so great but still endearing portions and facets to that old stadium?
So the vet was, so for the high schoolers or grade schoolers that want to mimic the vet, take some old carpeting, put it in your driveway, with no padding. And then put raise one portion of it so you can trip and fall over it, as the second base cutout was, and you're going to be able to mimic how it was. Now, I wouldn't pass it up for the world. That was the most fun you could ever have. The funny thing is, the turf at the vet was actually nicer than what we had at Mikey Stadium, so that was hard. So it wasn't a big deal to us, but. When you stand at the 50-yard line and you look up, and the way that it was almost a Coliseum type feel versus the open air stadiums of today. It was people were sitting on you and vertically, and it was loud and it was fun, and it was that you had the smell of pretzels, and it was just an unbelievable feeling to walk out there the first time with your T-shirt on, and it was 10 degrees, and you just kind of looked around and you were in awe because you knew the great players that had played there, like Jaws and Randall Cunningham, that are going to be honored here tonight. It was just it was pure as the game was.
What was it like to win? Get back in the winning column after so many years, just last year? I'm embarrassed to say that I was amidst a bunch of gentlemen that all of us were in tears. So it was the release of 14 years of pure frustration. We have an absolute great coach that is turning the program around, and now you look at today where Air Force, Navy, and Army all have competitive programs. It's kind of the way it should be, to show that people can go and have 21 credit hours in a semester and learn calculus and physics and still compete on a high level, both academically and physically. It just sets an example for the rest of the NCAA to say, yeah, it can be done, and if you want to do it right, you can find a way. Final question for you. We'll get you out of here. You got a lot to do tonight, a lot more interviews to do, I'm sure. But being here tonight, representative of Army West Point, how did you get the opportunity, and what does it mean to you to be sitting here? Not necessarily with Eric and me, but to be sitting at the dinner tonight and be honored this evening.
Well, it's absolutely humbling, but they're not honoring me, and I just happen to be my best ability was availability, so I was here and able to be here to represent. And I think both academies, because Navy has a game tonight against Temple, and 51 weeks out of the year we root for Navy. We hope that they do well, and I hope, and I might get in trouble by saying hope they beat Temple tonight, but it's definitely an honor. This game is bigger than any one person, any one era, any one team. So hopefully I can represent the academies well, and it's truly humbling.
Really, really nice to meet you. Thanks for taking some time and sitting down with us, and congratulations again. It's a wonderful night for the institution.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Dunphy Ford is Mayfair's neighborhood Ford store.
Nobody knows your neighborhood like Dunphy Ford.
Nearly 40 years.
Right here on Frankfurt Avenue.
Generation after generation. Our neighbors continue to be our customers. We have access to the cars and trucks you want with financing you need.
Dunphy Ford is Northeast Philly's first choice for America's #1 brand. 7700 Frankfurt Avenue in Mayfair. Online at www.dunphyford.com.
Come experience the Dunphy difference. You'll be glad you did.
We now have Andrea Kremer on with us here from the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner, a 2-time Emmy winner, the first female producer at NFL Films, and now the chief correspondent for the NFL Network. Welcome, and thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you. It's a fun night, and I can handle the double team of the two of you, so it's all right. It's okay.
We appreciate that, and congratulations on what's an amazing honor, a great evening. And what's it mean for you to be here tonight, and what were the circumstances that brought you here?
Well, it's phenomenal to be honored in Philadelphia, and what's really special is the people that are coming to celebrate with me, because isn't that what it's really all about?
Absolutely.
You know, we don't want to be dead and inducted into these things. We want to be alive so we can enjoy ourselves.
It's not as fun when you're dead.
Yeah, no,
You're
it's
absolutely right
definitely
about
not.
that.
It's
Yeah.
definitely not. Even though I'm sure the Kelly family will have plenty of fun, but and I don't mean to be disrespectful to them at all. In fact, my family was extremely close with Jack Kelly, and you know, wonderful man. But it really it means a lot. I was very surprised by it. You know, but to be acknowledged and recognized of the place you grew up and where it all sort of started is pretty special.
Absolutely. So you went to Friends Select High School?
I'm a
is that
lifer.
correct?
It's not a prison, but I'm a lifer, kindergarten through 12th grade, and Friends Select will be well represented tonight, as they should be. As they should be. I've got
That's
a couple
great.
friends who are here since kindergarten that I've known since
Oh,
kindergarten.
that's terrific.
Yeah, it's
What
pretty cool.
neighborhood? What neighborhood are you from?
I am right from Center City. If you're
Oh.
looking at the art museum, I grew up on the left-hand side, and when I started working, after I came out of Penn, I lived on the right-hand side. So I'm a Center City girl through and through.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
You're talking like Logan Square area that way?
Right
or-
around the art museum.
Okay.
Right around the
Wow.
art
Wow.
museum. Right,
That's
but
great.
Friends Select is right around Logan Square. So I've walked there and biked there and run there and you name it. I am a Center City girl.
Now, where you are now and everything that you're doing with the NFL and in journalism, was that always the goal?
No, because when I was growing up, this side of the art museum, and I didn't exist. When I was your age,
Right.
and I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to think you're probably just over 12, the way you look. You know, really, there's nobody.
Thank you,
there's-
Andrea.
You're welcome.
I have
Bob.
socks older than him. but
I'm
that's-
sure.
Yeah.
But you know what? Today, it's wonderful when I get young girls, young women who go, oh, I want to be you. I want to be Andrea Kremer. But I didn't have that. So it never really occurred to me that I was going to do what I'm doing now. And that's what makes it all the more special. You know, I guess when people say, oh, you're a groundbreaker and things, it just makes you feel old. But and I don't like to think that I'm old. But bottom line is that I knew what I loved, but it never crossed my mind that I'd be able to make a career out of it.
So when people ask what's the greatest or what was the toughest, I feel like that's always a tough question. But if there's anything that jumps to your mind in terms of the hurdles that you had to overcome, if you could describe one of those and what your reaction was to that.
Well, I feel that when I was first getting into this business, if I allowed myself to think of the times that I was the only woman or the first woman, you psych yourself out. I never wanted to be viewed that way. I never wanted to view myself that way. I've always felt that knowledge is your armor. If you really know what you're talking about, people can't question you. But on the other hand, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't BS your way through something. Ask the questions and things of that nature. And of course, you're tested on things all the time, and you have to understand there's just a double standard in this male-dominated profession of sports. There's a double standard, which means that you have less margin for error, you have to be more buttoned up on your information, and just understand it. Don't can I say bitch about it?
Yes, you may.
Don't bitch about it. Just do it. And I feel that's what I have done, and it's served me well.
You know, you're still kind of fighting that type of prejudice too, because like I know that when I sit with my buddies, we're all about 50 years old, you know, and we sit with them, they still get perturbed. And I forget who the announcer is, but there's a female college football announcer, play-by-play announcer, and they get upset with that. That still gets under their skin. So you're still, you know, the people may say the politically correct things, but it still exists, don't you feel?
Well, I personally don't feel it, but I see enough of it. Look, there's so many more women that are in the business now, and I'll tell you a funny story. I have two buddies who are the biggest sports fans that I know. I mean, they miss nothing, and a woman had come on the scene, and really good looking, really good looking, but she didn't really know her stuff. So I always say to them, you're like my personal, you know, focus group. I can always gauge the temperature talking to you.
Sure.
I said, what do you guys think about her? And they go, you know what? We look at her, she looks great, but the minute she opens her mouth, we turn it off. They know the difference. And I've always felt that there's two kinds of women that go into sports. Those that love sports, they're passionate about it, they grew up with it, and oh, by the way, I talk about it, write about it, commentate on it, and those that oh yes, I want to be on TV, I want to do this, oh yeah, sports looks like it'll be kind of cool. You probably know which group I'm in, and I do think that the audience can tell that. And if you know what you're talking about, and if you have something meaningful to say, maybe I'm naive, Eric, but I'm going to say that people will pay attention if you tell them something interesting.
I think that's completely true, and I think it really. I
And
think
remember,
you're right. The ones
men, I can handle the double team, right? Men are not born with the gene, Gene, that says you know sports. Women can know sports too, just as well as men, and you don't even have to have played the game.
I got to say that's a tough one for men to give up.
It
to
is.
admit to. I really think, you know.
It is. And look, there's still a big part of the sports population that does not want to take its sports news from women. And you know what I say? Too bad.
Right.
Because the doors are open, more women are getting involved than ever, and we're not going anywhere. We're here to stay.
You know, the greatest, or maybe not the greatest example, but I think a very clear example of what you just said about not having to have played the game, you know, the women versus men, is the very first weekend of this NFL season. The Monday Night Football, Sean McDonough and John Gruden in the booth, and then Beth Mowins taking the 10 o'clock game. There are comments on social media about Beth never playing the game. Sean McDonough,
Well,
he didn't play the game at any high level either, but they're both seasoned and I believe very strong professionals at their craft.
Right. Play-by-play is definitely different than analysis.
Sure.
I mean, to me, the GOAT, the greatest of all time as a broadcaster, I worked with him for years and years and years, and he's a dear friend, is Al Michaels. He's the best ever. I love Al. Al did not play the game. Al is the best play-by-play man ever. And you could just say sports broadcaster. Beth Mowins is a terrific, knowledgeable, technically sound play-by-play person. And oh, by the way, she happens to be a woman.
Absolutely. And she can do so many sports.
Right.
She can cross the different bounds of...
Right. And look, basketball is different. I mean, Doris Burke, who is finally hired full-time by ESPN to be a color analyst, Doris played and had a great career at Providence. Basketball's different. Women
Right.
can play basketball. There are obviously female football leagues now, but you don't certainly see the proliferation of them.
Right.
But that's why in basketball, I think you can have female analysts of the male game because they played the game, they know it, they understand it.
I completely agree. I really do. And this is Andrea Kremer, by the way, with us here on BLS from the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame dinner. And Andrea, maybe taking a left turn slightly, but staying in the journalism industry. ESPN and some of your counterpart networks have made some moves in the last few months, in the last year, and I feel like there's a downsizing and really a changing of what these networks want in terms of content producers and now professionals that are out on the street. What have you seen? You know, is there a feeling amongst those in the industry that things are changing, and if so, for the better or for the worse?
Well, that's tough for me. I was at ESPN for 17 years, and I have some really close friends who were laid off, and it's really tough. I mean, you never want to see that happen to anybody to lose their job,
Right.
But then when it happens to your friends and it hits close to home, it's really tough. I don't think there's any doubt that there has been a shift from news and information to opinions. And
Yes.
my little amateur theory is I think it started with talk radio, specifically sports talk radio, and then it really morphed into the television side of things. But that's what you have now. But don't forget, please, there is still a big and needing audience for long-form journalism. That's what's near and dear to my heart. It's what we do at HBO Real Sports. And we've been on the air for 23 years with the show and won every imaginable award. And people, one of the things I love that I hear from Real Sports is, I don't really like sports, but I love your show. Because as long as we have some even tangential connection to sports, it works on our show.
But it's kind of true at this point in time. Like, I wanted to ask you about, with the NFL and the situation where they talk about the ratings just being down and the popularity, forget ratings, going down. Do you see this as just a blip, or do you see this as a trend at this point?
Well, you have to understand one thing about the ratings. The ratings are definitely down, but when you compare NFL ratings to any other programming, be it sports, news, or entertainment, the NFL still blows all the programs away. Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football obviously is on cable technically, but anytime you have the NFL in prime time, it is doing monster ratings that any entertainment show on any network would love to have. So yes, they're almost competing against themselves, and the ratings have gone down some percentage points, but it's still the gold standard programming that's out there, and I don't really see that changing. Look, the NFL is definitely dealing with issues. This is not a revelation. The health and safety space, what's going on with the protests, even though I don't think you want to get me going on that because it's a whole nother issue. I just feel
It's a shame because I really do, but I don't think you want to.
all I'm going to say is this.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is this. Colin Kaepernick has not been hired by an NFL team. One of the reasons is, quote unquote, he'd be a distraction. Let me ask you, gentlemen, what's a distraction? A player who during a 2-minute plus anthem may raise his fist or may kneel or may sit down, or the President of the United States that takes to Twitter, an NFL owner that says, if you kneel, I'm going to fire you, or another NFL owner who equates, even though he denies it, his players to inmates in a prison. Where's the distraction? The players are not the distraction. That's all I'm going to say.
No, that's a good point.
I am. That's
fair.
I think my point is
fair.
made.
But yet, didn't other sports take a harder line with their owners to the players and say, exactly that you're going to stand, and that's the end of the story?
Well, hold on for a second.
Right.
In the NBA, it's written into the CBA. Remember, CBAs are negotiated between the league and the Players Association. In the NBA, it is mandated in the collective bargaining agreement you must stand. In the National Football League, it says you should stand. There's a difference.
Yep.
Must and should. And if the NFL is going to mandate it, it has to be changed, and it has to be changed under the collective bargaining agreement, which is cooperation between the league and the Players Association. But you know what? This is just one reason. There's so much misinformation out there, and you have to be we all have to be careful that we have the facts and not just continue to perpetuate a take that somebody has on television or sports radio.
I don't know. With Colin Kaepernick, I always thought that it was his way to stay viable, in the sport, because I think his skills.
How viable is it that he's sitting on his butt right now outside of football? That's not viable.
But I think that would have happened. But the point is, with his talking or not talking, it gave him attention. I guess for lack of a better term, he had attention. I think he would have had none the other way. I don't know if he was ever really strongly involved in the cause, whatever that cause may be. That's the
he's
feeling
given
I
away.
have.
He's given away $1 million of his own money. He has gone to schools in New York and provided students with backpacks and all sorts of things that they need to go to school. This is a fun night and a happy night and a nice celebration. I just think people have to be very careful that they understand what the facts are, and from there try to make informed opinions. I think that's what's really important.
And that's what's gotten you to the point you are tonight, a 2-time Emmy winner, the chief correspondent for NFL Network, Andrea Kremer, our distinguished guest here tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate
Thanks, guys. It's a pleasure.
Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
so much.
A real
Thank
pleasure,
you.
and congrats once again on the honor. It is our distinguished honor to bring on the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers over the public address. His name is Lou Nolan, and he joins us here on BLS, live from the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner. Lou, a 2015 inductee. Congratulations on a belated basis, but what does this night mean to you? You've now been coming to this year over year.
Well, it's special. First of all, to think that someone would say to someone else, and it grows that I should be inducted into Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. You know, as I said when I was here, I'm just a kid from Southwest Philly who happened to like hockey instead of basketball because I couldn't dribble, but I could stick handle and and inline skate, stuff like that. But and ice skate. But it's great. It's great to be here every year. These people do such a wonderful job.
You must love your job, being able to go down to South Philadelphia a couple times a week over the span of 5-6 months and be able to speak over the loudspeaker to the great fans of Philadelphia. If you could take us back to the early days of you getting started in that job, what would our eyes see if we could go back to that time?
Well, the first thing you would see is that I worked without glass, and yeah, well, nobody knew any different. You know, we didn't know any different. We thought that was what everybody did. In fact, most of them may have done that. And then the league decided that they'd put glass up all around, you know, so you could balance your checkbook there now if you really wanted to. But it was interesting. You know, I mean, my relationships with referees and linesmen were a lot better then than they are now. Of course, there were only 3 of them instead of 4 of them. But, you know, a lot of young guys now. But I'm still friends with some of those folks, and it was great. It was just close to the players. And Bob Kelly would tell me once in a while that he was going to send somebody into my lap. We're good friends to this day. And sure enough, Bob did. A little hip check, and somebody would come over the dash reports and land right in my lap. So good fun.
That's great. Lou Nolan here on with us at the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame dinner. We talked right before you came on air. I had the rare experience of habiting the booth that you sit in last year for a junior Flyers game. You were out of town, so I humbly, and I stress humbly, was able to take his spot for a day. It's tough what you do. I was doing some play-by-play as well as public address, but it is not easy, Lou. I can respect what you do every day.
Well, thank you. I would say to you, though, that what you did was more difficult than what I do.
The spotter never showed either, by the way.
Well, yeah, you kind of need a spotter. But you know, when they go in the corner, you have to just do your best. I don't know if you had a monitor or not.
I did not.
No monitor. I do. So,
yeah.
But you know, to do play-by-play like that is very, very hard to do. Play-by-play is tough enough anyway, but you know, when you can't see in the corners, very, very difficult. But from my point of view, what I do, it's changed now through the years. You know, it used to be just announcing when the dot matrix scoreboard was at the Spectrum, and then it went to announcing and turning on the light, you know, with a TV.
Yep.
And then after that, it's like announcing, turning on the light, and doing commercials that are in the new board. And then now they have a guy especially that turns on the light. That's his job. So, hey, what the heck?
Putting America back to work. Lou, we have our colleagues Eric Nash, Rob Stott here as well. If any of you guys have anything for Lou.
Yeah, I just want to say it's great riding the SEPTA bus with you, Lou. All of us, it's like all these Philly guys just hanging out.
I know you wanted to use tokens. You couldn't use tokens.
Yeah, I know. What a shocker
tokens.
that was. I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about that. But, you know, you are the author, I guess it would be the author, the man who said the saddest words that I remember in the 70s and the 80s. You know what they are? Flyers penalty. The worst. When we heard your voice, the Flyers penalty, oh, God. Because you remember back in the 70s,
there were
lots
of them.
Penalties, yeah. Few penalties.
I was overworked back in those days. The league has made it so that doesn't happen anymore. You know.
They didn't pay you per penalty?
Nope. They didn't pay me for penalty. That's why I'm still here instead of like having my private island somewhere.
But it was good stuff. I mean, we love your
I'll tell you a little story.
Gene Hart, terrific.
Yeah, I wrote a book which is actually debuted yesterday. I have some here for sale, but they were in the book's a story that during one of those large penalty times, Bob Myers, the referee, was working, and there was a brawl. I mean, everybody came over the boards, and he said, "Louis, give me a pad." So Louis is my hockey name. Seems everybody has a name with IE on it. And sure enough, I gave him the pad, and he's writing all these names down. He comes over to me, and you have to know that Ed Snyder would call me. I was on speed dial on his phone. He would call me if he needed an explanation on something. So just as Bob's about to give me the penalties, a phone rings. I pick it up. I say, yes. He says, Lou, this is Ed. I said, Ed, give me just a minute. And I put the phone down. Not a good idea. So I got the penalties from the referee, and before I announced them, I picked the phone back up, and I said, yes, Ed. He says, Lou, he says, something I want to get straight between you and me. When I call, put the referee on hold.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, Ed had a way about him, and it's true. I should have done that. But, I mean, it was things that happened down there in the heat of the battle are unbelievable, It's like, that happened the other night, We didn't even know that Jake Voracek had a double minor. At least I didn't. So, referees huddle. Next thing I know, Jake's going in. He's got 4 minutes. Luke Shen had 2. Who knows?
How close is your spot to the penalty box?
I am in the penalty box.
That's what I thought. So
I am at the red line.
There must be some good stories with that. There has to be.
Oh, yeah. In fact, the other day, I guess it was against Anaheim, Gudis had a fight, and it was nasty. One punch, the guy nailed him, one punch, and he went down. I mean, I never saw him get hit like that. And they came into the box. It was near the end of the period, so they went across. And they came back at the start of the next period and sat in the box, and they looked at one another. And Gudis said, should we just leave our gloves here? so I had never heard that before in all the years I've been in there.
Clever.
Which is a great idea, because as soon as they went out, bingo, they go again. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, because play was going on. If they went out on a whistle, they couldn't really fight till the next time they're on, or else they'd get a game misconduct or something. Who knows? To make it easy for the referees.
So they come out at 2 minutes. I'm sorry, Rob. They come out at 2 minutes and immediately start fighting.
5-minute majors.
Oh, okay, right.
Part of it
5,
served
right.
in one
Period.
period, and a lot of it served in the second. And they had time to talk, and they knew they were going to go again, and it was.
That's beautiful.
Yep,
that's incredible.
It's happened many times.
You think about just all the different makeups of teams that you've seen over the years. Is there anything that stands out about this team compared to a Bobby Clark-led team?
Speed, period. With the teams that were back in those days, with the Bullies and Clarkie's clubs, when they came up the ice, they didn't burst out like these guys do. These guys come out, and they're gone. A lot of it was boom, 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 boom. Then it's like bang. First pass out of the zone is really important. And when defensemen can make that first pass, then we got something going.
Is that the game in general, or is that just the Flyers?
Well, it's been the game in general up until this year for us.
Right.
And we've gotten a lot of speed this year. We have been lacking speed in the last couple of years, and picked it up now. And these young defensemen, they're certainly learning now. We're at St. Louis tonight, a tough game, and we're going to have 4 rookies in the lineup. 4 rookie defensemen. That's why sometimes the guys are alone, because 2 guys are on the same side of the ice, and they say, and it's too late. There's not the time to recover in the NHL.
Lou Nolan on with us here at the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame dinner to carry on with Rob's question, asking whether it's the Flyers or the sport in general. Is it the players? Is it the change in the rule, the removal of the 2-line pass, the things like that? And then if we could even carry that discussion into the changing in the goaltending and how that's changed over the last 20 to 30 years.
That's a long period of time,
yeah.
20 to 30 years.
Yes, it is.
You look at equipment changes from Bernie Perrant now to our guys, and it's tremendous. The size of it is huge. Bernie's glove actually looked like a first baseman's mitt, and now, geez, when you look at them, they're incredible. But also with that, the sticks have changed because they're composite, and the puck moves a lot quicker. So that may balance out. From the standpoint of the league itself, taking out the red line was huge. And, the players themselves are just faster, younger, in better shape, and the diets are better because they look after everything. Flyers really have it covered because they do have a whole cook and everything else over at the practice facility. So it's a kitchen. they feed those guys the right stuff.
It's incredible. I think we can ask you because you're not a coach or player, so I think you can comment on officiating. Am I correct in that? I don't want to put you in the spot.
Well, you did, but that's okay. I think officiating has changed from the standpoint that the officials don't let them play, but the rules are such that if they apply all the rules, it's like the NFL. You could have a penalty in every play. Flags flying all over the place. So when the stick is just right here, that's a hook. Slashes. If you just like this, it's not like the old days. And the players are baffled by it this year. They think that it's not not being applied properly, or else it's not a good rule.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing a Wednesday night or Sunday night game, and Doc had the rule book from maybe the 60s, and it was 20-some pages long, and you look at today's, and it's like 250 pages long. It's incredible.
Yeah. And they take the referees to task because they now have supervisors who are former officials that see basically every game. So they're all critiqued. It's difficult. It's a tough job. I don't. Back in the day, it was a tough job, but they let them play. Kerry Fraser was probably the last guy that really let them play, he left earlier than maybe he should have as a referee, but they could push down a little bit.
In today's day and age, though, you have these critiques, and that's going to help decide who gets to officiate playoff games. So
that's the point.
And so in the Stanley Cup playoffs, a lot of times it's determined by how they're upholding that rule book and how they are enforcing it. So what would need to change to improve what Rob's talking about?
What would need to change? I don't know. The general managers get together and sort of suggest rule changes. I think they're really tight in it now, every 10, 12 games in. I would like to see it relax a little bit. I don't know it will or it won't. Depends on what they tell them to do. Now, if I'm an official and I'm a young kid and I get an opportunity and I'm working games there, I'm going to do what they tell me because I like working the games. And I hope to get to the playoffs so I can get some kind of a bonus, too, as you mentioned.
Right.
Let me ask you, just if you could tell us, for a little bit of fun here, who's your favorite, the best goalkeeper you've ever seen play and the best non-goalkeeper? If that's
Bernie Perron is the best goalkeeper. I saw a lot of guys.
Right.
I've seen thousands of games and over the 50 years of the Flyers. He was good. Dryden was good. Brodeur, great. Both of those guys. Bernie was the best, though, in my estimation. I saw him a lot more. So, tendency is to see him a lot more. I'm good friends with Brodeur, and I was there when he had his 500th win, I think it was, in our building.
Right.
And gracious guy. Best non-goalie, Bobby Orr, Gretzky. One of my favorites, Steve Yzerman, who's just a good friend and a great guy. I love Steve. Just a captain extraordinaire, like Bob was. Would always get it done. He won a few Stanley Cups, Detroit. And, I think that a guy like Mario Lemieux, who is a very classy guy, very, very classy.
I got to get one more. Best fighter, pound for pound.
Pound for pound?
I guess that's how you'd have to look at it. How about best fighter? We don't have to go pound for pound.
Toughest guy, best fighter, Ben Wilson.
Ben Wilson.
Schultze, Homer. And Homer really, he had a problem with his balance on his skates, so once in a while he'd go down. Willie Plett,
Willie Plett.
Willie Plett was tough. And, you're going to fight with him. Brashear.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a guy.
A lot of flyers in there, Lou.
What's that?
A lot of flyers in there.
Yeah, we went from being the toughest team to the fastest team, or one of the fastest teams, so I hope that works.
Tonight,
that works.
It's time.
Tonight, Lou, a famous Flyer, Tim Kerr, being introduced and inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. What does it mean to you? What does it say to you? And what memories are evoked when you hear the name Tim Kerr and you'll see him tonight?
Well, Tim's a wonderful guy. 450 goal seasons in a row with us.
Amazing.
Sacrificed his body to get in front of the net and got when the defenseman actually could take you out. Now they don't.
Right.
Because they're not allowed. Just a top-notch guy who gave a lot here. His free agent signing, it was incredible. and to have somebody like that do that and contribute to the successes of this team. I mean, had he not been hurt and had Dave Poole not been nicked up, we might have beaten Edmonton and won a third cup. So, but that's hockey.
Last one for you. To be able to do this in your hometown for your whole life, if you knew that you were going to get to this level in hockey and somebody told you that when you were a little kid, could you have imagined doing it in your hometown for your whole life?
I couldn't imagine doing it in any town, really. I mean, I was introduced to hockey up at the arena with the Ramblers by a schoolmate of mine. You know, we played street hockey on Chicago shoe skates, which you put them, you wouldn't know about them, but you put them on your shoes behind the school. So, you know, to get the broken sticks because his uncle was a goal judge, and we tape them up and play. And I followed the original six and took the trolley downtown to get the books. And who knows, you know? And a guy like Gordie Howe was a good friend, you know, before he passed. So that's another guy. I didn't see him in his prime that he would rank up there because he didn't mess with Gordie, both as a player and as a tough guy.
Lou Nolan, a 2015 inductee into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame and a gracious guest with us. Thanks for giving so much of your time this evening, and enjoy your night.
I appreciate the opportunity. You guys do a good job here, and thanks for the questions and a chance to be part of the show.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay.
What's going on, folks? This is Bob Long from Bob Long Sports. We're live here at the Wells Fargo Center before each and every Philadelphia Soul home game. We record this now before Arena Bowl 30, and the Philadelphia Soul, the winningest team in Philadelphia. Bob Long Sports is your spot for live video pregame shows with Bob Long, Eric Nash, and Rob Stott. We even have the opportunity to talk with the AFL Commissioner, Scott Butera. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. You do a terrific job, and God bless all of you and the folks in Philadelphia. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Tune in before every home game for the Philadelphia Soul official pregame show on Bob Long Sports. We now have the honor of having Ron Jaworski on. He is a former Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. He's done so much work with ESPN and the NFL, but maybe most importantly to me and Rob here, he is the owner, a part owner of the Philadelphia Soul, the two-time now reigning world champions of the Arena Football
Rob's
League.
got that right. Back-to-back.
Back-to-back.
Three-time world champion. Just a little correction.
Right, well, yeah, two-time
you know, it's hard
reigning,
to win.
Two-time reigning, three-time total. That's right. Ron, it's great to have you on here, and we, first of all, appreciate all the opportunities we've had with your organization and love the opportunity to spread the word about the Soul. But if we can talk a little bit about tonight first, what a great night this is, and so many great Philadelphia names. What's it mean for you to be able to come on a year-by-year basis to something like this?
You know, a few months ago when I was notified that I was going to be inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, I began to think about, you know, my playing days here in Philadelphia. And, yeah, it was a while ago, but I think the one thing that always stands out when you think of playing the game of football, any sport, because the Sports Hall of Fame here in Philly honors all the many people that were involved with sports, I immediately got to thinking about people. You know, it's not about me, it's not about a win, it's about people and all the relationships and friends that I had developed through the many years, 10 years of quarterbacking the Eagles. That's what I thought of first.
That's great. It's a great night, and for you having the opportunity, like I said, to come here, but represent this city in so many ways. With the Philadelphia Soul, on the many radio stations, I hear you on with Mike Missinelli and all those guys, but then also on a national basis to be a true representation of Philadelphia. What does all that mean to you?
Well, it's very important because this is the community I live in. This is where my kids were raised, and now my grandkids are being raised. And, you know, a year ago we were able to bring the draft to Philadelphia, you know, which was memorable. I'm still very disappointed we're not going to get a second chance to do it because it was without a doubt, the greatest draft ever. And that's a testament to the Philadelphia fans.
Absolutely.
250,000 people packed the Parkway over 3 days. Not one arrest. People behaved beautifully. You could cheer for your team, but it just showed not only this country but the world, a worldwide audience, how great Philadelphia is. Not only from the football perspective, but along the Parkway, the arts, all the things that are so important to the people in this community were on display in a very, very professional way.
And Howie Roseman.
Not only did we lose it, we lost it to Dallas.
Well, that's true. But at least Howie Roseman traded into the first round, huh?
You see that snarl I give you. You must have read my mind, Rob.
Like, come on.
I got to give Howie a lot of credit, because when we made the announcement that the draft was coming to Philly, we did not have a first-round pick at that time, and but I did speak to Howie that morning. He said, "Jaws, I got something cooking." So he came through.
And you've seen Derek Barnett already make impacts, and he was obviously who they took with that first round draft pick this year. This Eagles team now 7-1, rolling in an NFC East that most people thought would have been the Cowboys division, in an NFC where most people thought there would be 5, 6, 7 other teams before you'd think about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I think we're all a little bit surprised by the 7-1 record. I think most of us that study the game thought this team would be better. I didn't see them being 7-1. I thought they were, a 9-win team when the season ended. But clearly, Doug Peterson has been phenomenal. When you look at Carson Wentz, I've never seen a quarterback grow up from his rookie year to his second year as fast as he has grown up. I make my living by evaluating the quarterback position. And for the most part, I get him right. And I loved Carson Wentz from the first day I went out to Fargo and spent a few days with him out at his pro day, and his coaching staff and his teammates and his family and the people in that community. You knew you're not only getting a quality football player, you're getting a quality person. Faith-based, grounded, team-oriented, checked all the boxes, and now his play in the field is indicative of how good of a person he is and how good of a player he is.
You mentioned Carson. I mean, is there anything, you talk about the person, the guy he is, and what he means from just a leadership standpoint, but as a quarterback and an analyst now, what about his on-field play sort of stands out to you that maybe puts him above some of the other names that younger names that are out there as far as quarterbacks?
There are a couple things that have jumped out at me this year, because that first year when you're a rookie, and he had no preseason play his rookie season. He got hurt in his the first preseason game he played, and he broke the rib, and all of a sudden 4 weeks later he's a starter. And so he didn't have the benefit of that training camp. So he's had the entire offseason. He's had the entire training camp. And you can just see it in his ability to manage the game at the line of scrimmage. I mean, it is Peyton Manning-esque. He sees what the defense is doing. He gets them into the right play. He's got an audible system that they use with Frank Reich, the offense coordinator, that he communicates very well to his teammates. He hasn't been fooled all too often. He's been fooled, but all NFL quarterbacks, any quarterback's going to get fooled. But when I see the way he handles the pre-snap phase, how he handles the pressure, I mean, it's remarkable. He's played 8 games in his second year and has shown this kind of growth.
Ron Jaworski on with us here at the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner, talking about Carson Wentz. Now, the mechanics, the physical mechanics, you talked about the pre-snap and everything mentally that he does. I feel like we're seeing better mechanics from Carson Wentz this year. Less balls that are kind of elevated and air-mailed more than he would have wanted. This year, he's been on the money.
Well, that's what the offseason will do. And John DeFilippo, the quarterback's coach, has an outstanding resume. Played the position, understands position, knows how to coach the mechanics of the position. Frank Reich, the offense coordinator, had a long, storied career in the National Football League. So he's learning from good assistant coaches. Now, Doug Peterson, the head coach, a former NFL quarterback. So he's got talent around him, coaching him, that understands the position. Now, everyone's got opinions on how you coach the quarterback. I like the quarterback coach to be a coach that played the position, because you've got to be able to feel it. When you're telling a guy, oh, read this and throw it there, if you've never done it, you don't know how easy or how difficult it is. Now you've got 3 coaches that have played that position. They understand it better. So when they ask him to do something, they've done it themselves.
Segue. You mentioned
I like it.
The Wentz and Peterson connection. How's that we've seen that translate in the Arena League with the Soul, with Rodaball and Coach Dolezal. I mean, do you think that's the same thing there with the success that the Soul are having?
Absolutely. And I will mention, now I love Clint Dolezal. This guy has coached our team to back-to-back championships. I'm pushing hard to lose Clint Dolezal. I believe he should be in the NFL. Much like Jay Gruden, now the head coach of the Washington Redskins. Jay was a terrific Arena Football League player. He cut his teeth as a coach coaching the Arena Football League. And what is he now? Lo and behold, the head coach of the Washington Redskins. I believe if you give Clint Dolezal an opportunity with an NFL team, give him a couple years to really understand the NFL game, he could be a head coach in the NFL because he knows how to deal with people. He knows how to organize. He knows how to lead. He knows how to manage. Whenever I speak to NFL guys, they talk about coaches. They say, hey, there's a diamond in the rough. He's in Philadelphia, and his name is Clint Dolezal.
How many players at the Arena League level do you think could start making those transitions upward?
Well, they already are. As you know, we
Jake
have a number of guys on our team have gone on to at least tryout camps, and I still can't believe Jake Metz, who was with the Bills and the Eagles in training camp, is not on a roster right now.
Right.
Jake can flat out play, and I've told people, Darius Reynolds is a tremendous player. James Romaine, I mean, I see some of the coverage corners in the NFL. I'm saying James can cover those guys. So we have players that are outstanding players. The Arena Football League has outstanding, talented players. They just need an opportunity. The guys that get it, they take advantage of it.
Yeah, Ron, Eric Nash. First of all, thank you so much for that.
You bet, Eric.
Bringing those championships here. We were laying on that field with the confetti, the little kids making snow angels. Beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's amazing you said that, Eric, because when we won 2 years ago in Arizona, and it was kind of quiet because everybody left the arena because we had kicked their ass and we didn't want to kick it.
It's true.
As we were celebrating, we celebrated, trust me. Right. But we're all in the locker room afterwards. We kind of quieted down, saying, you know what? We already started thinking the next year. We want to do this in Philadelphia. We want to win the championship for football fans in Philadelphia, for soul fans in Philly. So it was so great this year, 14,000 plus, packing the Wells Fargo Center. Game over, and here comes that confetti. And I saw you down on the field laying there making snow.
I absolutely was.
But it's just wonderful. A cool feeling to win and celebrate it with our fans in the city of Philadelphia.
Soul-colored confetti. It was beautiful.
Yep.
But the thing is, we're seriously looking at the Arena Football League now. This year, obviously, and doing some of the games, we saw it up close and personal. 5 teams. It was a little precarious situation moving in, and one team that was owned by the same two teams were owned by one guy. So basically, what's going on as far as expansion? If you could tell us,
it is going great, by the way. And you're absolutely right. There were 5 teams last year, but we eliminated those teams that had poor ownership, that weren't making the investment into the Arena Football League. Our sports signature now is NBA, NHL owners. As you know, Ted Leonsis owns 2 teams in the Arena Football League in Washington and Baltimore. He also owns Monumental Sports, the WNBA team, the NHL team, the NBA team. So he understands the sports signature. You look who's down in Tampa. Well, it's Jeff Vinnick. Jeff Vinnick owns the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Boston Red Sox. Oh, let's go to Cleveland. It's Dan Gilbert. He owns the Cavaliers, Quicken Loans. So you're seeing guys that are making the investment in the Arena Football League. A new team in Albany next year. We announced last week.
Oh, nice.
There are going to be new teams coming in. We're going to announce over the next 60 days. So we hit rock bottom. We've dug out of rock bottom. Now we are ascending with the proper leadership and proper ownership.
What's it like working with Scott Butera, the AFL commissioner? We love speaking with him. He's
an amazing guy to talk to.
Scott's done a really good job. He's not necessarily what I call a football guy like Jaws. He's one of those guys that's he's a lot smarter than me. He worked on Wall Street. He worked in the Trump organization. He sees the big picture. Where I'm trying to grind out first downs. That's kind of the way I am. I'm a grinder. We got guys that are a lot smarter, and they have a vision for where the league is going to go, and Scott does have that vision.
Ron Jaworski here. Final question for you. We'll get you out of here and to the.
I'm having too much fun. Why are you kicking me out?
Well, we can do this for 2 hours if you'd like, Jaws. We can absolutely make that.
It's better than doing the ESPN countdown. Come on,
beautiful. That's the best compliment we'll receive all night.
Save that clip.
But Ron, the last question we have here is: if you take a look at the entire Philadelphia sports landscape, the fans that are here, obviously you're a football guy first and foremost, but you love all the other sports here in Philadelphia. What's this fan base like when you interact with them on a day-to-day basis in a way that we never could?
Passionate. And in fact, even when I was playing with the Eagles, my next-door neighbor was Doug Collins, the 76ers. Around the corner, Mike Schmidt from the Phillies. Bernie Parent around the corner. Vince Papale, Gary Maddox. There was kind of a culture of athletes in our neighborhood, which was really cool. And we hung out together. We go over to Kaminsky's and over in Cherry Hill and have a beer on Friday afternoon. So we kind of hung together. So we all appreciated what each team had to do. And I think back to 1980, the culture of Philadelphia. Eagles are in the Super Bowl. The Flyers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Sixers are in the NBA Finals. And the Phillies win the World Series. So all 4 teams in 1980 were in the championship game. And I'm seeing good things right now with all 4 major sports teams. We're going to edge the soul up into there as maybe the 5th as we move forward. But you're starting to see the worm turn. You know, you're starting to see all the teams now start edging up, and I think we can look back at another 1980 and say, let's get 4 teams in the championship game, because you can count on the Soul every year of being there.
Of course. That's great. Well, we appreciate the time here tonight, Ron. One little personal note for Rob. We were talking about Carson Wentz. He has a little one at home named Carson.
Oh, nice.
So,
and I'm not allowed, the wife said I am never allowed to say that it's because of Carson Wentz, but we all know.
That's
deep
right.
down.
Oh, way to let the cat out of the bag.
Between you, me, Ron, and everybody watching here.
I'll burn the tape.
But hey,
but
you can cut that clip.
Maybe another one on the way, and maybe they can get a Ron. Thanks so much for the time.
Thanks, guys. My pleasure, man. Thanks for joining us here
Appreciate
tonight.
it.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You bet, Eric. Thank you.
Dunphy Ford is Mayfair's neighborhood Ford store.
Nobody knows your neighborhood like Dunphy Ford.
Nearly 40 years.
Right here on Frankfurt Avenue.
Generation after generation, our neighbors continue to be our customers. We have access to the cars and trucks you want with financing you need.
Dunphy Ford is Northeast Philly's first choice for America's #1 brand. 7700 Frankfurt Avenue in Mayfair. Online at www.dunphyford.com.
Come experience the Dunphy difference. You'll be glad you did.
It is our honor to be here with Rene Portland, the longtime Penn State women's basketball coach, on with us here at the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner. Rene, congratulations on a tremendous honor.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited about tonight. Taken aback a little bit by all the excitement, but I'm with 2 Penn Staters.
There you go.
So
That's great. It's great. And we are big supporters of the basketball programs, both men's and women's, and really great strides made while you were there, and Coquise has continued that now. What does it mean to you to see where the program is now and to know that really you were a instrumental part in all of that?
Well, when I started at Penn State, I had a great supporter on my side, and that was Coach Paterno. And so it was pretty easy to go to him and cry for equality and all those kind of things. To have him on my side, I got a lot of good things done. And once we got it started, the community got behind us, and that was the ticket. And we had great players like Susan McConnell and Helen Darling, and just people that really put people in the stands for us, so I was pretty excited.
Rene, what was your background? What brought you to Penn State coaching women's basketball at that level?
Well, I guess my beginning claim to fame was that I was a Mighty Mac in Immaculata College. I played there for 4 years on the County Rush. And then I went to be the head coach of St. Joe's in Philadelphia, so I'm at home. And then I went on to the University of Colorado for 2 years in Boulder, a little too far away from my mother's likings. And then, as I said, I got the phone call from Coach Paterno. He was the AD at Penn State at the time. And didn't take too much arm twisting to bring me back.
That's great.
Was there anything bigger claim to fame than being a Mighty Mac? I mean, that was the is that almost like the beginning of women's college basketball?
It really was. And then, Title IX hit after what we were able to do, so it really was a kickstart. The beginning, when we had the Final Four here in Philadelphia, there were T-shirts made. Immaculata was the beginning of women's basketball, and so it was neat to be a part of it.
And look at it now. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
You'll hear me say tonight, my journey in women's basketball has been from the outhouse to the penthouse. Not saying Immaculata was the outhouse, but when you had to buy your own sneakers and sell toothbrushes, it was.
But I get it. I get that analogy completely. I mean, it was rough going. How many students did Immaculata have?
No, it was rough going. We absolutely loved it. There were 500 of us up there. We weren't called Mighty until we won 3 national titles. And then we went on to better things and bigger things. And
yes.
Got advantage of it. So we went from riding in 2 cars to basketball games when I was a Mighty Back to charter jets at Penn State. So the outhouse to the penthouse is a good story.
Immaculata is right near Malvern, isn't it?
It is, actually.
Yeah,
it's in its own town of Immaculata, so
okay.
I guess Good Sisters can do anything. They got us to win a national title, and they got their own town named after them, and they really They blessed us all with a lot of good things.
Coach, was it a 30 for 30 that they did with Immaculata? I know they did a documentary.
They actually did a movie called The Mighty Macs.
Right. I'm
Yep.
sorry. You're right. It was a movie a couple years
Some of our
back.
teammates actually went and dressed as nuns and played the part of the nuns because they had people play the part of all the players. And
that's funny.
So it was fun to watch. A little different than what we really lived, but it was a fun movie.
So what are you doing these days? How often do you get back up to State College for one?
I was just there for the Penn State Michigan football
Oh,
game.
I was there as well. What an experience.
And it really was a great thing. You know, I haven't been back much, to be quite honest. We moved to Bloomington, Indiana with grandkids after I left Penn State. Just recently moved back to the area. We live in Tannersville up in the Poconos. And you heard me mention grandkids. I'm a full-time grandmom. I have 7 grandkids under the age of 11. And I like this new job a whole lot.
That is a great job.
Immaculata to Penn State to grandparenthood. That's quite a great journey.
It really is.
Yeah.
It was a great journey, but this one, as I said, is the best job I've ever had.
Absolutely.
Rainey, we had the opportunity to talk with Andrea Kremer earlier, and she talked a little bit about the hurdles that women in journalism have to overcome. What have you seen in terms of the women's collegiate basketball game, as well as women's sports in general? And what progress have you seen in 20 years? And after that point, what more do we still need to do?
Oh, there's a whole lot more we need to do, but there's been a lot of great strides. You know, the Immaculata team was the first team to ever play in Madison Square Gardens as a women's basketball team. We were the first team on national TV when we played the University of Maryland back in 1975. Now there's TV, there's radio, there's a whole lot of things that have happened in women's basketball. Our Final Four is a big success. Coaches, as I say in my speech, I went from $200 as a head coach to I had to hire an agent to negotiate a multi-year contract by the time I was halfway through my time at Penn State. The kids are now receiving what the men receive, the free sneakers, the free everything, which is really good. The academic supports, which is really necessary. But we still need you guys, the media, to help us out a whole lot. Until people hear us and see us, they don't believe in us. So I guess my big pitch was get yourself to a game and you'll fall in love with some basketball players who'll do a good job watching. You'll do a good job watching them.
When you were coaching at Penn State, you guys played at Rec Hall, right?
Well, we played in Rec Hall, and then they built the Jordan Center. And it was pretty funny because we had sold out the Rec Hall, and they actually stopped the doubleheaders with our men's team because the women were outdrawing them at the time. We built the Jordan Center, which was 17,000 people, and I really didn't want to leave Rec Hall. And Paterno said to me, you don't have a choice. You fight for equality all the time. Get your butt down to the Jordan Center because we're moving the men. We're moving you too. And we went down, and my dream was to see the marquee outside of the Jordan Center saying sold out. And that dream came true.
Wow.
Before our Michigan game and our Purdue game one season, out on the marquee a whole week before the game, it said Lady Lions sold out, and that was 17,000 people. So we had our own TV show. We were on TV a whole lot. We had our radio people travel home and away. So, yeah, it was a good thing. And I hope it keeps going.
Except for a few blips, I don't think the men's team has ever gotten close to the fan base that the women's team has.
I would like to return to the university at some time. You know, they work hard. They really work hard. You know, we get tremendous support at Penn State, and I would hope I can see people leaving now Philadelphia to come play at Penn State, and I know the last few recruiting classes had Philadelphia kids in it, so I would hope the Coach Chambers is able to keep that connection because it's probably a real good connection to have.
It is, and he's doing a great job with the program.
He's a good person.
He is. He is. And that Roman Catholic, you're a Philadelphia girl, so you know about Roman Catholic and Philadelphia Catholic League basketball.
Yep.
So, well, we really hope you enjoy your evening. Rene Portland, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
Thank you so much.
Really a pleasure.
Really fun. And thanks for being such a great advocate of Penn State basketball and all you've done.
Thank you very much.
Take care and congratulations once again.
Thanks.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.